Modern Greek is a nice way to pronounce the language of the Bible. The Erasmian so-called pronunciation is very unpleasant, not to say strident and unbearable almost, to a modern Greek speaker. So here's the Greek alphabet, and we'll do little bits and pieces of it as we have time in these YouTubes. But it goes like this: Alpha, Vita, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lambda, Mi, Ni, Xi, Omicron, Pi, Rho, Sigma, Tau, Epsilon, Phi, Chi, Psi, Omega. You'll find if you talk to a Greek speaker, he will recognize those words as the real Greek alphabet. If you then consider the word spora, which means seeding or sowing or seed, from 1 Peter 1, it would be spelt then sigma, pi, omicron, rho, and alpha, spora. There are variants of that in the corresponding parable of the sower, sperma and sporos, a masculine word rather than spora, and then the other word sperma. So spelling sperma, we would have sigma, pi, epsilon, rho, mi, and alpha, sperma. We would have sporos, sigma, pi, omicron, rho, omicron, and final sigma. Actually, the language is no harder than Spanish. It's not very difficult, and you'll get a great deal of joy out of reading it. There are many good examples of native Greek speakers reading portions of the New Testament, the book of Galatians particularly. I recommend those to you, and it will give you a sense of really touching base with the original language. Now, we might add this, that in the vowel system in Greek, there's a very heavy influence on the sound of E. So we say in class then, jokingly, when in doubt about a vowel, say E, and you'll be fairly certain to be right. That makes spelling rather difficult in Greek, but you're not interested in spelling particularly, you're interested in reading. So the pronunciation of many different vowels and combinations of vowels, diphthongs, as E, is really rather helpful. So let me give you those. I have a sheet in front of me we used in class, and we can put that up on the internet, I'm sure. But there are no less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possibilities for the sound of E. First, the letter iota, from which we have the famous equivalent in Hebrew, not a jot and a tittle. Iota in Greek is pronounced E. The diphthong epsilon iota is pronounced E. Another diphthong, omicron iota, which in the very harsh and to a Greek unpleasant sound of the Erasmian pronunciation would be oi, very Cockney, I may say. It sounds like a Cockney, oi, oi, oi. No, in modern Greek it's E. That's omicron iota. Then of course there's the easy letter eta, alpha, vita, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, which is pronounced E. And then the letter epsilon, equivalent of an English U, is pronounced E. And finally then another diphthong, epsilon iota, as in the word for sun, S-O-N, yos, that's epsilon iota, is likewise pronounced E. Now that's rather comforting and simplifying. We have then iota, epsilon iota, omicron iota, eta, epsilon, and epsilon iota, all pronounced as E. Now we can add to that then the sound of A, alpha, which is invariably A. Let me say there are really no exceptions in modern Greek in the pronunciation. Once you establish what a given sound is, it's going to work all the time. The other diphthong, which you may be interested in, would be omicron epsilon, O-U in English, which is invariably pronounced oo, oo. And then the vowel omicron and omega, really the same sound in Greek, O as in obey. Now with what I've given you there, apart from the more difficult diphthong, which is alpha, epsilon, and epsilon, epsilon, and I've deliberately left them out for the moment, they're a little bit more complicated. Apart from those, I've given you really 80% of Greek pronunciation right there. So, with a little bit of practice and looking at our sheet, which gives you the Greek alphabet, the vowels first, and then the consonants first, I should say, and then the vowels, and then a sample of the noun logos, meaning word, and how to decline it. In Greek you have declined nouns, and so you've got to learn nominative, which is the subject case. You've got to learn accusative, which is the direct object case. The genitive case comes next, and the dative case, 4 of them really. You've got to learn them singular and plural, so that's a little bit more complicated than English, certainly. Then you've got to learn that verbs are in 6 persons: I, you singular, he, she or it, and then we, you plural, and they. And while we're on the subject of personal pronouns, let me just mention this to you, that everybody who speaks of God, when they refer to God, automatically refers to him as a person. God is addressed as thee, that's singular, for you. As you, not you plural, but as you singular, thee. He is referred to as him, as he. He speaks of himself invariably, Yahweh does, as I. Now those are singular personal pronouns, which you learned in a very elementary stage of your education, means a single person. Now note the extraordinary thing that happens then. Many will turn round and say, well, God is also 3 persons. But you've just been speaking of him as 1 person, I, and so on. The Bible speaks of him as 1 person with singular personal pronouns thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times. I think you see where we're going with this. It's very odd then to say that God is both 1 person and 3 persons. And official Trinitarianism tries to avoid that, but only at the cost of going outside the Bible and using language that is not biblical at all. So think carefully about that. Is God 1 person or 3? He cannot be 1 and 3 at the same time. You cannot be 1x and 3 x's. So Trinitarianism tries to avoid that by equivocating on the word person and moving from person to being. But that distinction is not found anywhere in Scripture.